Welcome back to Remade in California, where we talk everything from the economy to education. In this episode, we're talking to our experts about the best ways to handle relationships in the workplace. Joining us now from the law firm of Cozen O'Connor is California labor attorney Michelle Lee Flores. So what laws pertain to toxic relationships in the workplace?
One of the laws would be sexual harassment or harassment and discrimination based on protected characteristics. But simply because someone is not friendly in the workplace and could be creating a toxic environment does not necessarily mean that they are violating the law.
So talk a little bit about a definition that would help in that area.
So for sexual harassment, it would be harassment based on sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, pregnancy, or pregnancy-related medical conditions. It could be discrimination or harassment based on race, ethnic background, national origin, those types of protected characteristic, age.
What other behaviors?
Well, usually how harassment comes about is generally two different ways. One would be the paradigm of quid pro quo, which is someone saying either sleep with me and you'll get a promotion, or sleep with me and I won't fire you, or some other type of sexual favor in exchange for something. As it relates to hostile work environment, which a lot of folks have probably heard about that is about an environment that is either severe, so it could be a touching, someone could touch you, or pervasive, constantly commenting on, for example, it could be a male talking about a coworker, a male, that does not, the second person could be effeminate. And so the commentary could be a comment on that person's gender identity and not syncing up with our traditional sense of a manly man and a feminine woman.
Different companies have different cultures.
Absolutely.
Some are informal, some are much more formal. How do you determine what's appropriate in different extreme cultures like that?
Well, I think that that's one of the perfect gray areas that we have when it comes to harassment or discrimination in the workplace. Particularly, how is it, maybe there's an environment where people are much more casual and they hug, and other ones they barely shake hands. I would guide someone in that environment to proceed with caution, to be safe rather than sorry, and to, just because someone else is necessarily doing some kind of a hugging doesn't necessarily mean it's okay to do it. That could actually be making someone uncomfortable. In general, I like to say, kind of keep your hands to yourself is a good way to be mindful of it without being off-putting, obviously. But if you could easily say, if someone's you want to hug them for some reason, congratulations of some sort, or they just got a promotion or something, you can say, oh my gosh, can I hug you? Can I give you a hug? I say that actually in my workplace. Can I give you a hug? Because I want to make sure that they're comfortable with it, and I know that some people are not. Yeah. So it's okay to ask.
So the recent case of Roger Ailes and Fox News, sexual harassment. Suddenly there are just a lot of people that kind of jump on maybe a bandwagon, or maybe it's true. What happens in that environment? How does somebody legally weed their way through that environment?
Well, oftentimes, once someone, if there is harassment going on, and if there is, it's very likely that there's been more than one person in a working environment, especially someone with a long tenure and a very powerful position.
How is California different than other states in this area in terms of laws?
California is really the front runner of the laws that protect employees in the workplace. It is known as, they don't call it the People's Republic of California for nothing.
We tend to be progressive.
We are very progressive, and we're at the forefront. And one of the things which is a great thing to do, is when we realize what's happening in California, the whole country looks at us, and then they come along with us. So things that started, some of them traditionally up in San Francisco area, the Bay Area, then they trickle down, and then they hit the whole state, and then it starts becoming an effect across the country.
Ripple effect.
A ripple effect across the country, yeah. Whether it be wages or whether it be, for example, sexual orientation.
Right.
Sexual gender identity is covered under federal law, but sexual orientation is
There's
not.
this case of the former Subway spokesperson, Jared Vogel, who is serving time as a sex offender. His wife is suing his former employee for his behavior.
Yeah,
You're familiar with this? Would that have merit here in California?
I'm going to give you the lawyer answer. It might. It might. And the reason why is, as I understand it, the wife is suing his former employer, the spokesperson, and Subway, and it's because of, she's arguing, as I understand it, she's arguing that they were on notice. So the employer was on notice of a certain behavior that somehow she became, and they had a duty to tell her. So this activity supposedly was put on notice, that the company was put on notice of it before she got married, and then the company used her likes, her pictures, her children's pictures to also be part of the spokesperson. So I think that's where the hook is. Generally, in order to have a claim, you need a hook. So it could possibly be a claim here in California. I mean, the reality is anybody can sue for anything. It's whether or not they would survive the process of the litigation process,
right.
And or if whether or not they have a claim. If, for example, the public relations that can fall out from it, you'd want to settle it without admitting any wrongdoing.
Right. So we don't talk about it often, but what about sexual harassment of men in the workplace?
I think it's becoming more and more prevalent with the inclusion of LGBT, the gender identity, understanding that some people project a more effeminate, they may be male, but project more effeminate, and that is to be embraced and understood as a protected category, as well as we have more and more women, getting into positions of power. And really what a lot of sexual harassment is about power. It's about wielding power. And so you will have and could have women in positions of power asking for favors in exchange
for
the quid pro quo again.
In reverse.
Yeah. Or how about the really attractive guy and all the coworkers swoon over him and start making him feel uncomfortable? It's a coworker to coworker, but the women constantly talk about, what a great body he has, and he must do this or that. That can make him uncomfortable just the same, and it doesn't matter whether there doesn't have to be even a sexual attraction.
Gender doesn't
to
matter.
It. Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah, and so if you're accused of this type of behavior and you're innocent, what are some guidelines to protect yourself?
I think one of the things is to understand, the first thing is to understand what are the policies that the company has put in place that you need to follow, as someone that's being accused of some inappropriate conduct, and follow those rules and follow that guideline. But also think about a couple different things, witnesses that might have been around, find out details as to when supposedly something happened, and if someone else was around that could support you saying, I never said something like that. Right. Also recognizing that what one person says is somebody can hear something different. So great minds can differ, and the perceptions, right. Mm-hmm. And it can be affected by cultural, it can be affected by gender. And so recognizing that perhaps someone took something in a way that was offensive, it certainly was not intended to be offensive, and perhaps what we say is, well, that won't happen again. Now I know this particular thing may be sensitive to somebody. And I don't mean sensitive in a pejorative way, I just mean inappropriate or uncomfortable.
Is it ever appropriate, if you see that behavior happening to somebody else, to encourage them, or should you be minding your own business?
Oh no, you should not be minding
your own business. Some people don't. It's almost a self-esteem issue. They don't have the self-esteem to go, well, this happens to me all the time. I shouldn't do anything about it.
Right. No. Actually, one of the the sexual harassment, the claimant in a sexual harassment does not have to be the person to whom the action was directed. So the third party observer
I didn't know that.
can bring a claim, because again, it's that hostile work environment. But what they'll want to do is say, because I think most employees, they go to work and they just want this nonsense to stop, and so that they can work. And because of that, utilizing the reporting processes that the company has for a third party to say, I keep seeing this, it's making me uncomfortable now. I don't know if this other person is comfortable or not. I haven't even asked them, but I'm telling you this is going on.
This is how it affects me.
And this is how it affects me.
Yeah, good
and
point.
then that would initiate, a thorough investigation.
That's a great point. Great point. Well, thank you, Michelle.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
For more information on Michelle, please visit cozen.com. For more information on how California's community colleges can help you be remade in California, go to doingwhatmatters.cccco.edu. Up next, who do you report your coworkers to in these issues? We'll hear from an expert in HR.